Hi everyone. Dementia residents get buoyed by observing the weather outside the window, so it's important to capitalise on this activity when we can. So their favourite activity is sitting at a sunny seat and getting those rays of warm sun through the glass. So if you're visiting and you can get a window seat and you can sit with your mother in the sun, having a cup of tea and a little chat, this is by far one of the favourite activities. But even so, if you can't get the window seat, at least get a seat that has a view of the weather and discuss the weather. You know, you can explain about the season, it's summer, it's sun, it's the beach, the kids going to the beach, discuss the weather and the seasons. And the dementia resident will be able to connect with that, not from their own experience of being outside, but from what they see through the window. So activating that window scenery experience plays a big part in their life. That visual panorama of the window is so much part of their experience and a valued one. At the dementia unit I was working at, there was a woman and she was a former school teacher, Pat, and she had her sort of favourite seat, which she used to quickly get after breakfast by the TV, but it looked out on the Port Hills. And every morning she'd look, study, observe, think, and then she'd make the weather forecast. Bearing in mind it's Mediterranean temperature inside all dementia units, so you can't feel any difference day to day, but she would give the forecast nevertheless of what's going on outside the window. It would go like this. Say Monday. It is a grey day today. You know, meaning it's overcast, grey clouds, raining. Or next day, it's a lovely sunny day today. Now actually 2 or 3 words, that's all for the weather forecast, but all the residents would pick it up. Yes, and they'd look out the window, take the lead. Yes, it's grey today. You know, terrible drizzly, not realising it's -3 degrees, which it is in the winter, which it practically was this morning or felt like it here. In Christchurch. So then as the diversional therapist or the relative, you can then tune in to your parent about the weather. Once they've observed it outside, you can say, well, actually, Mum, it's freezing outside. It's grey, it's rainy, it's wet, it's freezing. You know, we're having to wear massive great jackets. And indeed, you're very lucky to be here in this lovely Mediterranean temperature, where you don't have to experience the freezing Christchurch weather. And no doubt your mother may well say, oh yes, it was very cold in that house I was in, but here it's lovely and toasty. Yes, Mum, so that's one of the advantages of being here. Well, yes, I suppose you could say it that way, one advantage. So it's actually very good to outline the advantages to your mother of being in a dementia unit. Of course there's disadvantages, we all know that, restrictions on liberties of freedom, of course, but if you can also outline the advantages, look, Mum, you're getting 3 lovely meals a day here. Oh yes, I do like the food, and you never used to eat much at home. You were losing weight and you didn't like cooking. Well, no, I didn't, not for myself. It was very boring. I know, since Dad's gone, it's always difficult to make the effort to, cook when you're on your own and the family's gone. But here you get, lovely roast meals and salads and desserts, and you're putting on a little bit of weight, I have to say, but not a bad thing because you were underweight before. Yes, dear, well, actually, I do like the food and I like talking to the ladies at the table as well. Yeah, because the meals are a big activity here and it's delicious food. It's really good food. You get all the fresh seasonal vegetables. You get fruit salad every night. You get soups every night. Your always favourite porridge in the morning. On it goes, all your favourites. Let alone all the cakes for morning and afternoon tea. I mean, we only used to have that sort of thing at Christmas time. Yes, dear, yes. And it's warm, it's toasty. The house you were in was freezing. It wasn't insulated. Out on the farm. So in this way, as you outline the positives, it's a boost. The dementia residents really like this. They like the positives being outlined, because it boosts them up. You know, when you discuss it, they begin to see, well, actually, they're making friends, they're together in a little community, they're fed well, they're looked after, they're safe. You know, there's lots of advantages. I mean, when you get to the age of not being able to manage at home, as one of the male residents said, you know, once you can't do the lawns, you know, pretty much you have to go somewhere else. You know, you can't do the garden, or you even can't do the housework or whatever. So when dementia residents realise that they're there being looked after and well cared for, from their perspective, they just see it like a nursing home for the older residents. You know, not so much the younger residents, of course, but for the older residents, who are the majority, they see it as a nursing home where they are well looked after, and often refer to it as such. That's a positive thing. That's a positive way of looking at it for them. That gives them a positive spin on it. So it's a good way of being able to settle them down if they get anxious, explaining from a positive perspective. Because what we feed is what we breed, isn't it? I mean, if we feed positive, the fruit will be positive. We get into the negative, you know, anything can happen. Anything can escalate with negative, but positive will always be grounding. So as much as possible, as much as practically possible, focus on the positive. So weather and out the window, there was another guy, he was a farmer, his name was Warren, and he always used to look out the window for anything related to farming. You know, he'd been a great farmer, sheep, cattle and potatoes, very good at growing potatoes, and used to supply them to all the Chinese markets in town, I heard through the grapevine. Anyway, he was the first one to observe from the unit that there were big fires going on in the Port Hills, the massive great fires, and we didn't pick up on it. And we were quite close to those fires as it happened. We nearly had to evacuate. And he was the one to see them on the Port Hills, because he's used to looking out on the horizon. He saw those, he saw the helicopters coming in with the water. He'd always say, you know, it's always dry in Canterbury because we never get enough water. The Southern Alps blocks it all. It's all rain on the west coast, but dry on the east coast in Canterbury. He sort of knew all the weather forecasts around farming. So, and he'd always be looking out the window as well for all these signs and signals. So he enjoyed that, looking out through the window as if it's the farm. So in that way, it's an institutionalized aspect of adjusting, but it's a good one for them, looking out the window and having a good view out the window. So visits, sitting at the window, talking about the seasons, talking about the weather, it's all a nice little activity that goes on at dementia units, and a positive one. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for your support and looks and likes. I've written these two books, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit and The Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit. So especially those of you that like reading and that are having problems with relatives or friends in dementia units, it's really good to read up on the books, because there's so much to learn. There really is. That's why I'm doing so many videos. All these hundreds of videos practically now. I thought I was only going to do 20 on each book was my aim, and now I've done more than 200 because there's so much to learn. And there's lots of comments coming in now, about various topics which I'm referring to and bringing into the videos to be able to help you. So please keep the comments up. I'm very happy to respond to comments in person, online, you know, type away, and I'm also happy to include them in the videos about all these positive practical techniques to help people in dementia facilities. So as you know, those that are following, I'm a former physiotherapist, you know, 35 years, 8 years as a diversional therapist working in a D3 dementia facility. So experience around that and problems with stress especially, and practical solutions to help people physically and in terms of stress. They're probably my two feature areas. So thank you for your likes and your looks and subscriptions.